It's been 17 years since we've had a repeat national champion.
Yeah.
I mean, what would that mean?
This is even, I think, obviously an even greater challenge, and
In this new era of basketball.
and with the way that those teams, Florida and Duke, especially Duke, I could speak to. They had a guy named Bobby Hurley returning to that team with Christian Laettner and Grant Hill, whereas we lost some significant components to the team. So this is more like even back before. I don't think there's ever been a team that lost so much that's been at this point of contention where, maybe we're the favorite right now to do it. According to some people.
But maybe no team has done what you're trying to do.
Maybe no team is trying to accomplish what we've done, which I think is dangerous for the people that we play, because we're not playing like a group that feels a lot of pressure. We take the court with a lot of swagger, and then we also take the court like a group of people that have never won anything. So we've got a chance to make history. I think getting the championship last year has taken a lot of pressure off of this team, off of me as a coach, where we could just kind of get out there and just kind of let it rip and go for it.
You lost 3 players to the NBA.
3 players, 3 of amazing players that really led the charge for us, and most programs take a big step back.
But you would say this team right now is playing at a higher level than your national championship team last year.
Yeah, no doubt.
What does that mean then? Is this a better team?
Potentially, that story's going to get written because you've got to deliver. But I'm really proud of the fact that human nature hasn't creeped into our program in terms of being satisfied and complacent and celebrating too much. We didn't do any of those things. We've played this season like we've accomplished absolutely nothing. And I think that's because we have so much love and admiration for each other in the program, because there are people on this team that have not experienced that success. There are some champions still remaining in the program, but we want it for everyone that hasn't experienced it yet.
Is that also partly because how you were able to find kids who buy into that mentality, buy into that team first aspect, who embrace and love the grind and love basketball? Like, you think about the landscape now and the challenges. I mean, it's always been a challenge. No one's repeated in 17 years. But now, NIL, transfer portal, I mean, you've got a new landscape now in college basketball. How are you continuing to get kids who buy into that?
Yeah, I think there's measurable talents you have to have, right? The height, the speed, the skill set. But we spend a lot of time really focusing on the parents.
The parents?
Yeah, on the parents. Are they going to be fans while they're on campus of their son, or are they going to be parents? Are they going to hold them accountable, have an expectation that when something goes wrong, that it's not the coach's fault, that it's their son's got to work harder, he's got to do more, he's got to earn his role. We've got a real old school culture here of accountability. I'm an old school coach in terms of the tone I take with my players in practice, the expectations with effort, the focus on winning and we over me.
Like, what does that mean?
Have they played on 7 different travel teams? Have they transferred to 4 or 5 different high schools? When you talk to the parents in the recruiting process, are they constantly complaining about the coaches after a bad game, or are they, sending you a text or you having a conversation, where their son has got to do more, he's got to play harder, he's got to work on his skills. They tell on themselves, they drop hints, and you've got the wrong type of kind of people in that inner circle around your players, they'll sink your program.
They'll sink your program. One player.
Yeah, the locker room is so important. The personalities, in that room, what they're saying in that room after a tough loss.
Are they pointing fingers?
Yeah, are they beginning to create, divisiveness inside the locker room and, becoming coach killers and program killers and culture killers. Our ability to avoid those type of players and and to pass on some neon talent to get more of a winning player.
Pass on neon talent. You mean you're passing up players who are playing at the top of the game because you're just not confident?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You see players that with the way we do things, as well as the focus that we put on winning. Here, those 5 national championship banners, and the 11 on the women's side, you prioritize winning here as a head coach, or you won't be coaching here very long. And we've passed on players with incredible measurable height and athleticism off the charts to bring somebody in here that is going to give us a better chance to win, and somebody that, if the losing does start, is going to help you be able to respond.
Well, we talked to Tristan earlier, and he said, we were talking about after the Creighton game, and he said when he has a bad game, he feels bad because he's let his team down. Because he said they have dreams, and I don't want to mess that up. I mean, I was like, that's kind of what you're saying.
Yeah. And it wasn't, it takes a couple of years to kind of build that. That foundation and that feeling. The first couple of years here, when we weren't competing at a very high level, you were hoping to feel that way, that you had such a connected group, such a hard-working group, such a high-achieving group that now, when we do lose games, there's a sadness, there's a dark cloud.
A dark cloud?
There's a dark cloud, and it's the best feeling in the world because...
The best feeling?
It's an incredible feeling.
Why?
Because the feeling of no one giving a crap, or being selfish and being more concerned about how the game went for them, is the worst feeling that you could have. Being a selfish player, it only sinks the group, and it doesn't get you closer to your goals. So that feeling of somber, like somebody died here after a loss.
And that is that feeling here?
That is the feeling that every coach in the country wishes their program had, because that means you're winning a lot, and then that means that everyone is focused on one thing, winning.
People love March Madness because it shows that passion, and that intensity. And in this time where you've got the portal, you've got NIL, you've got social media, is that still there? I mean, have the players changed? Have you seen that? Or is it still a lot like when you were playing?
No, the game has changed enormously. The
game.
The
Well,
game
I mean,
of
it's
college.
still the same. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously you got a three-point line, but
culture.
The culture's
culture
changed.
of basketball has changed at the professional level, at the college level. There's great opportunities. I think a lot of the decisions that have been made are obviously, to give players opportunities, NIL, the freedom to transfer with the portal. I mean, there's such a great focus on player power, player empowerment that you just hope it's not a situation where we don't kind of just give young people fish instead of teaching them how to fish. I don't know that the players that grow up in this generation, if we're not careful, and if we don't put some rules in place and some parameters, that they won't develop true toughness, true competitiveness, an ability to look themselves in the mirror and fix things about themselves when they're struggling, an ability to make a commitment to an organization and seeing it through. I think a lot of it is obviously really, really good. A lot of the players that are benefiting from NIL are coming from situations where they don't have a whole lot, so they've got money in their pocket, their families can travel and see them play. There's an ability to transfer if you're in a bad situation. But maybe some guardrails need to be put in place here, or else the game will be unrecognizable.
What kind of guardrails?
I think contracts for these players. I think when we get to that point, when you see a player out of high school and you believe that they're going to be a 2-year player or a 3-year player, I think there's got to be a commitment that gets made there. I'm not sure how we get there from where we are. But then also in terms of the transfer portal, we shouldn't be playing our season and in the NCAA tournament and the portal's open, and we're dealing with trying to coach a roster to win, maybe the toughest championship that there is in all of sports, a single elimination tournament versus 6 different teams, all different styles of play on neutral sites, while people are actively recruiting players off of your team. And they could transfer as many times as they want throughout their career. We want players here 100 times out of 100 that are picking us because they want to play for me. They want to play in a program with a tradition like this. And they love what our culture stands for, and they want to pursue championships. We don't want to have a player want to come to UConn because they believe it's the best NIL opportunity. We've seen a number of those teams that had some of the biggest budgets this year or salary caps in NIL have had a really tough year.
Just watching your practice, you get out there, you're like out there like a kid yourself, like out there in the middle. You worked up, you literally had sweat through your shirt 30 minutes into the practice.
Yeah.
But your players say that you're real and that you're going to be straight with them.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's something you think about, because now it seems like so much is not real. You got social media, I wonder if that's something that kids see in you that makes them really do want to, that's another intangible you have.
Yeah, I think just kind of being around basketball your entire life, it's the most comfortable place that I find myself. I'm much more comfortable and at ease around 17, 18, 20-year-olds on a basketball court than I am at the White House or at the stock exchange to ring the bell.
All of which you've done.
Well, all of which I've done, but at some of those events that the guys weren't at, I started to kind of freak out a little bit.
When it was just you? None of the players around?
When the players, anything that the guys weren't involved with, celebrations or different functions, I either want to know why they're not there, and then they'll be there the next time. But I try to imagine, like, at different points when I played, when I played, I try to be the coach that I wish I had in every single way. Both the coach that pushed me to be at my best as a student, as a player, holistic, whole approach to it, a better man, somebody that's going to prepare me for success in my 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond. But then also somebody that could be funny at times, somebody that just brings a different type of energy, because this is monotonous work. This is a 5.5, 6-month season.
What's your daily schedule like? How much sleep do you get a night during basketball season?
It varies, I guess, on how the sleep varies on how the season's going. When it's not going well, you don't sleep. Coming off a loss, it's that's pretty tough. I watched my dad model for me and my brother, losing a basketball game as a high school coach, a shame, feeling ashamed, and
Do you take it that personally?
Yeah.
Like it's a personal loss too.
Yeah, because it's the program is a reflection on us. We lead the program. We're at the college level. We're the face of the program, and there's a shame that comes with it for us Hurleys when we fail or when we lose. That I couldn't get out of bed. As a high school coach into my early years at Wagner, I couldn't move. My wife, Andrew, would literally have to kick me out of bed. I was just frozen and in a very dark state. And
after a loss.
After a loss.
Just from despair.
Despair, and it's jarring when you lose, because your culture, your tactics, everything that you've built, just took a real shot, and you
start questioning yourself.
Start thinking you might not win again. You may, okay, now we're going to lose 2 in a row, and then once we lose 2, it could turn into 3. Now we may miss the NCAA tournament.
You just spin that.
You spiral, and I did that for years. And I've got a great network of coaches, Billy Donovan, to help me in a major way to come up with a morning routine that gets you up and out of bed. And then I've
You have a pretty strict routine in the morning.
Yeah, and that's what
Your
gets you up.
meditation.
Oh,
and
yeah.
What
Oh,
is
yeah.
your routine in
That
the morning?
alarm clock goes off, at 6 a.m. and I am up and I am in my Bible and in my prayer and in my scripture reading for the first half hour.
Well, what did Billy Donovan say to you, though? What was his advice?
It was very frank and honest with me, just about not having a routine to fall back on that will kind of, get you up and moving. And then he also spent a lot of time to me talking about like how grateful you should be for the position that you're in. You're just some like kind of dirty little kid from Jersey City that just kind of loved basketball. And your life has turned into, you're the head coach at Rhode Island in the Atlantic 10. You were fired at Rutgers not too long as an assistant coach, down to high school. You're living the dream, man. Like, you don't deserve to have some attitude of that you're entitled to more success than you're having in life, buddy. Check yourself.
Like you don't deserve to feel that despondent.
You should never. That's not why you got into coaching. You got into coaching to change lives because you love being part of teams with a mission. You love that feeling of being in the huddle. And now you want to kind of pay back players that the way your dad did for you, the way PJ Carlissimo did for me, the way Coach George Blaney did for me. And it's not about like all these accomplishments. We're all competitors.
Your dad's a Hall of Fame coach. Your brother is a two-time NCAA champion who was a first-round draft pick. And you were a good basketball player, playing at a high level, and you felt like a failure.
Mm-hmm.
Like what was that pressure like, and how did you work through that in college?
I mean, college until almost April of last year, that's...
That really?
Yeah,
So you've gone, so it was really only, so when you sit at the Wing Foot Awards, you can sit at the table now. That was more than just a joke.
Yeah, that was not, I'm not very good in those settings.
No, but I mean, that's very, because, I think, thinking about when you went, like you were in a really dark place when you were playing in college and you took that leave of absence.
Yeah, and it would get dark at different points, beyond the player. The build up to last April, the different stops along the way, being fired at Rutgers, being a high school coach that was really, really great, but not Bob Sr., a level coach, not having, that incredible championship elite moment, and spending my entire life in the sport. My mechanisms and my mental toughness and all those things, my wife and my family, my whole support system for dealing with those anxieties, those comparisons that all human beings, struggle with in their lives. That stuff, for me has been persistent my entire life. And, really the only thing that's really alleviated that for me was having that moment in April in Houston.
It was only when you cut down that net that you felt like, okay, I've done something too?
And not even in that moment. It was probably 2 months later at the Jersey Shore, with my beach badge on, just sitting in a chair, talking to my wife and just saying like, I kind of feel free. Not that night, you get back to the hotel and it's euphoria. It's the love that you feel for your group and, that pinch me type of moment. It takes so much time to process it. And that didn't dawn upon me for a while. This weight that had been lifted off of me, that I'll never feel that weight ever again. And it's freed me up, I think, to be, a better coach.
How so?
That pressure, I'm not afraid to lose anymore. I always carried this fear of losing because it opened me up to that not measuring up, to the family legacy.
Your dad, your brother.
Yeah, that narrative, that external noise that had always been so persistent. And I just think now, internally, I'm so proud of how long I've stayed in this game and fought to have that breakthrough moment, that there's not anything that somebody could write or say, or some idiot fan could chant or put on social that will ever put that weight back on me.
How has it affected you as a father and the coach of your son? When you talk about pressure, he's got a famous grandfather and a famous uncle, and now, a really successful father.
Yeah, get at it. Don't find a passion that you have in life and pursue it.
But I mean, do you think, Andrew, how does that, how do you?
Yeah. No, it's. I mean, it's. It's a cycle that they've got to break, and that they can't find themselves in. This comparison, this trying to live up to this family legacy thing. There's nothing but sadness and brutality there. I've lived it. I'm going to look back, at my life and say that I spent 40 years of it up to when I was 50 years old, struggling with some level of suffering relative to external comparisons to the accomplishments of other people. Mm-hmm. And I just pray, and I've had enough conversations and enough things that I've sprinkled in about trying to break that cycle, finding your passion, pursuing the things in life, the successes, and building your own family, but it not being about achievement. For me, I had a very unique situation, and I quite honestly, I didn't have, a lot of guidance in terms of the messaging that I was getting along the way. I think
different generation of parents.
Different generation of I think today, I think my message is become the best well-rounded human being that you can.
Would you want Andrew to go into coaching? What would your message be today to your kids?
Pursue things the way that you see your father pursue the things that you're passionate about.
Not necessarily basketball.
Not necessarily basketball, and not necessarily banners and trophies, but pushing yourself to the max for your family, and for the things that you love to do, and have an incredible work ethic and drive and determination, and pushing yourself to the max. I think those are all great human qualities. But I also, too, I've got an incredible family that I love, and a very simple life.
Simple.
Simple but beautiful.
That's nice.
Simple but beautiful.
But you've got a Hall of Fame coach for a dad, and a brother who's a first-round draft pick.
That's right.
Who won 2 national titles
No
at
doubt.
Duke.
Yes.
So, you come here to try to rebuild this storied program, and you get knocked out in the first round. I mean, a couple times.
Yeah.
What was that a moment of low? I mean, did you start to doubt yourself then?
The New Mexico State game was, losing in the COVID tournament. It was our first time back, and there are many excuses you can make for your performance in that one. But that loss in Buffalo was as bad a place as I had been in, really since early in my college career, when I took that leave for serious depression issues, and I got to the point where I just the thought of basketball took me to places that you would never want to go to. I took probably 2 days to wallow in that in a very, very bad way, the worst way I had been in almost 30 years. And then just my family, my wife Andrea, my 2 sons Danny and Andrew, the love that they poured into me, and the coaching staff here to kind of pull me back to work that Monday and take a long look in the mirror as a coach at where I was coming up short. And there were issues in terms of I wasn't coaching at an elite level. There were holes in my game as a coach that I needed to address.
Like what?
Overly emotional, and I haven't solved that puzzle all the way yet. It's scary. You get older and you see your sons when they have your qualities, whether it's personality, mannerisms, the way they look at the world. That's a scary moment. because you're hoping that there'd be maybe that would stop at one, in this Hurley family line here of men we're producing. But I'm
Well,
complicated.
what would stop? What would you hope would stop?
The obsessiveness about your work, which I see with my oldest son. The
And you have in yourself.
that I have in myself. My oldest son, Danny, and the way he obsesses over history and public policy as he's entered the political world. My youngest son, the way he just overanalyzes things and beats himself up when he makes a mistake or isn't measuring up. And then the quirks. I am one of the quirkiest people that you will ever meet. Once I find my way into some type of a strange superstition, only some type of epic total failure will remove that superstition, whether it's the underwear, the socks, the half-court
What was it,
shots.
dragons? What was it the red, what was the underwear last year?
The red dragons. Yeah, the red dragons.
Any superstition this year?
Yeah, I mean, I'm dealing with the underwear, and I'm dealing with the underwear right now, and it's going to put me in a bad spot going into the NCAA tournament this year.
Why, they're wearing out?
Well, the Dragons started the year, and they got off to a really good start, and then we lost to Kansas. So now it's a 3 underwear rotation. So now I went to the Great White Shark underwear, which had a decent little run there until we lost at Seton Hall, and then the Wolves went 14 straight conference games without a loss. So when I look at the analytics behind which underwear do I go with going back into March Madness this year, do I play the hot hand, which looks like it's going to be the Wolves, or do I go with the Dragons, which were the champions last year?
I mean, repeat the underwear.
I care more about that than my seating and where I get put in a bracket.
Right now, is there a favorite? You think it might be the Red Dragons? I mean, you're trying to repeat.
I know, and last year was beyond the it's going to be the Dragons, and it's going to be the same suit
So
that I wore.
you're saying it now?
Yeah.
It's going to be the Dragons.
It's going to be the Dragons, and it's going to be the same suit that I wore all 6 games, the same dress shirt, the same belt, the same socks. The shoes are beat up, but they've been sent to the cobbler just for some little improvements, and it'll be the whole costume that I had on last year, as well as a bunch of other things, which we don't have time for.
Are you surprised you're such a good coach? Like when you think back at your life, what your dad's accomplished, do you ever think, dang, I won a national championship and look at me, I can do this stuff?
No, I think it was the perfect storm. I think that this coach here was created or was built as the son of one of the greatest coaches of his generation. Taught me tactics, taught me leadership, taught me psychology, taught me a holistic approach to developing their players, taught me how to pour absolute everything that you have into the job of coach and to impact lives and to create winners and championship teams. And then my failures as a player have made me the coach that I am. If you're a great player and all you've experienced is great moments and championships and you've been the best, you can't relate to the whole roster. I can relate to my whole roster. I can handle any storms that come up in the year because I've failed before and I've stared it down, I've walked through it, and I've climbed a mountain.
There's that great picture where you basically are saying to Andrew, thanks for being my therapist. I mean, what do you mean by that?
Well, I've got quite an army behind me here. The experience with Andrew, just having him there with me after a tough loss to come sit next to me on the plane or on the way to the game, sending me a text message, we got these guys tonight, coach, or during the anthem to walk by me and pat me on my butt. Just that support and to go through the highs and lows, the roller coaster ride that this thing is, with somebody that you love more than anything in the world, that is like your best friend, and then to have your wife Andrea and your son Danny and my brother that I talk to every day during the season, and my dad and that I could call and talk to when things are tough. I've got a tremendous support system behind me. I think the moment on the floor in Las Vegas, as we're going to the Final Four, being there, that moment, that group hug, with the home team, my wife Andrea and my two boys, and then I had a moment with my dad there, where just he's getting older, and
How old is he?
he's in his mid-70s to late 70s right now. I don't want to.
How old are you? 51.
51. Yeah. But he's getting older.
Yeah,
and
you don't know how much time.
Yeah, you don't. And I think I mentioned to my parents there, and that moment with Andrea and my kids and my parents and my brother, and being able to say to your dad, who put the ball in your hands and pushed you to such levels in basketball, that instilled the love for the game and the toughness to climb a mountain like that. Being able to say to him, Dad, I'm taking you to the Final Four. And him looking at me and saying, like, maybe this is the version of me if I ever got to college. This would be what I would look like in the college game. That meant a lot.
Did he say that?
He's a man of not a lot of few words. I think getting those I love yous out of him at this point of our lives is really rewarding.
Did he say he was proud of you?
He did. And you don't get that. You don't always, it's tough to get out of Bob Sr. Anyone that's ever played for him or coached with him will tell you.
When did he tell you he was proud of you?
I think they're on the court right there. They're in the court in Houston, and I think, you chase that. You're 50 years old, and, I've never shared that moment with him. Maybe a little bit at Rhode Island, but it never really got to that moment where you're like top of sport, best in the world at what you do, and you finally feel measured up. Stop.